I'm now actually just hit the record button. So we're now recording the webinar. For those people who aren't available to participate live, we are having this webinar, hosting this webinar twice. We will post the recordings for those people who aren't able to participate. Bless you.
Thank you.
So again, for the purposes of the recording, here's our agenda. We will start with an overview of the summit, talking a little bit about advocacy and the purpose of visits to Capitol Hill. We'll walk through tips and strategies in terms of scheduling your meeting with your elected representatives, and then give some final tips in preparing for Hill visits and for the summit. Here we go. So a brief overview of the agenda. This is more or less what has been posted online if you haven't already seen it. The summit starts on a Sunday evening. For those of you who've participated perhaps in the past, the summit had a much shorter schedule, and we've slowly expanded it to now cover a little bit more than 2 days, because we recognize that the additional time allows for more time to dialogue and receive more information about some of the topics we'll be covering at the summit, and gives participants more additional time to prepare for the meetings on Capitol Hill. So we will start on Sunday evening. We will start with just an overview of logistics. Oh, someone just joined us. If you are, again, please be sure to mute your microphones to help us cut down on audio noise in the recording. We will start with an overview of logistics, as well as an update and overview of the legislation that we are following in the U.S. Congress. In addition, we'll have an opening reception to welcome everybody. And then things will really begin in earnest on Monday morning. There'll be a variety of speakers, and new for this year, we'll have breakout sessions. So this is sort of more the policy side of things in the title, in the Advocacy and Policy Summit. We will have speakers from a variety of federal agencies. I think we have the list here on who will be speaking at the summit that morning. We will have representatives from the Office of English Language Acquisition at the U.S. Department of Education, as well as the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. For those who may be working in adult education, that's sort of a new name for this office. They were known as the Office of Vocational and Adult Education up until just a few months ago. In addition, new for this year, we are going to have some representatives from the Student and Exchange Visitor Program at the Department of Homeland Security. That is the agency that oversees student visas for those people who may be working with international students at universities, as well as speakers from the Department of Justice and a private legal advocate who will talk about civil rights issues for English learners and immigrant students, as well as some speakers talking about the Common Core state standards and English learners. So there's a lot packed into that morning. And some of those speakers will be speaking in front of a general session type of audience, and then there will be 2 different times they'll have breakout sessions where you have a choice of 1 or 2 sessions to go to. So that'll take up most of Monday morning. Following a lunch, we will get into the advocacy part of the summit, and that will consist of some grassroots training exercises that will help you prepare, just getting more engaged in advocacy back at home, some of the tips you can utilize to not only orient yourself and your colleagues, but sort of grassroots strategies to engage in any kind of issues, not necessarily those specifically focused on legislation. But the latter part of that afternoon will be focused exclusively on preparing for your visits to Capitol Hill. And we will do some role-playing, walking through talking points, have some time to share for people who've done this before about tips that they've learned over the years, and really give you time to work with your colleagues to help you prepare to going to the Capitol Hill the next day. On that next day, on Tuesday, of course, June 24th, which is TESOL Advocacy Day. As you can see by the agenda, you will have pretty much the full day available for your Capitol Hill visits. And we'll talk in a little bit more detail about that a little bit later in the webinar. but you have a little bit more flexibility in your schedule. But we do like to close with a closing dinner and debrief, and what we have found is that that's been a valuable opportunity for participants to come back after they've spent the day apart, to come back and share what they've learned and what they've heard and what they've picked up in talking to their congressional representatives and their staffs. And it's a great way to sort of close out the whole experience. So that's a snapshot of what the agenda looks like. Of course, as we confirm speakers and finalize details for the agenda, we will be sharing more detailed information, including the specific room locations in the hotel where we'll be located. Now, a few quick tips to help you prepare for the summit. One of the reasons we've decided to host an orientation webinar for those who are participating is that this event's a little bit different than other events that TESOL International Association hosts. And a lot of times you can register for an event, you just know where you need to be, and you can kind of show up without necessarily a lot of information or things to prepare in advance. However, the Advocacy and Policy Summit is something you actually really should take time to prepare in advance, do things to prepare in advance, because it'll enhance your experience. First and foremost, one of the key things is that the appointments you will have on Capitol Hill are those that you'll need to make yourself. We will be providing you information, tip sheets, directions, and all sorts of resources to help you make those appointments. It's a lot of just logistical work, but you yourselves are going to be responsible for making your own appointments. So that will take a little bit of time. It's something that you really can't wait till the last minute to do. If you get started in the next week or so, you should have plenty of time. It will take some diligence on your part. We'll walk over those details shortly. But you should come to the summit with a sense of what your schedule is for that Tuesday. We will also be giving you some background information to read in advance. We'll be preparing some issue briefs and providing some additional reports on some of the policy issues we'll be discussing. And we really encourage you to read and review that information before you're coming to the summit, so you have some familiarity with some of the broader policy issues we may be talking about. We may be making some references to particular laws or particular legislation, and it's, I think, to your benefit to have some sense of what those might be in advance, as opposed to coming in hoping to learn all that on site, because a lot of information is provided in a very short time. Sort of like, information by fire hose, to use that sort of analogy. So it definitely behooves you to help prepare for your experience by reading that information in advance. Another tip is to do your homework, and this relates to not only the background information we're going to provide, but also in terms of making the appointments on Capitol Hill. The kind of homework I'm referring to, not only in terms of getting to know a little bit of information about the people you're going to meet with on Capitol Hill, but for your meetings, it's always good to come in with some information about your personal experience. What if some of the policy issues we'll be talking about, what does it look like from your classroom, from your district, from your institution? Because ultimately that's information you will want to bring to your meetings on Capitol Hill. So if, for example, we'll be talking about some issues relating to the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, otherwise known as No Child Left Behind. What are some of the latest initiatives around K-12 education affecting English learners in your district? And being able to refer to those in your meetings on Capitol Hill. And also, of course, to enhance your experience, we really encourage you to network and share information with your peers. I think that everyone who's coming to this particular event because they're interested in advocacy and policy, they want to learn more, they really want to gain as much as they can from the experience. So it's a great tip, and we've heard this from past participants, to take the opportunity to network in advance, share information online, there'll definitely be times you can share and connect with your colleagues and peers during the event, and really learn from each other's experiences. We're very fortunate that we are having a number of people coming to this event who've done this in the past as well. So to hear what their experiences have been, what they have learned by going through this experience and going to Capitol Hill, and what they did as follow-up to help enhance what they've learned. So that will really just make your overall experience deeper and richer. So moving on, I think, Ellen, you'll pick it up from here. We're talking about advocacy.
Right. Thanks, John. And once again, just if folks just came on the phone a little bit late, my name's Ellen Fern, and I'm a consultant to TESOL, specifically around government relations and advocacy, and I work for a firm called Washington Partners, and we actually have been working with TESOL since 2005 and helping TESOL have a presence on Capitol Hill as it relates to education issues, teacher preparation, and obviously English language learners, etc. The firm I work for, just very briefly, we're a small firm, about 10 people, and we specialize in policy and advocacy for education groups such as TESOL. So we're really a sort of a boutique specialized firm. And so when folks come to DC and participate in advocacy days, we always like to start by defining what is effective advocacy and what do we mean by advocacy. And generally speaking, advocacy is when constituents or a group of people with a specialized interest or expertise educate their elected officials, whether at the state level, local level, or federal level, on an issue of concern to a group. When you're an elected official at any level of government, you have to know so much about so many different issues. And so truly our democracy works best when groups advocate or really educate staff and elected officials on areas and issues that they are more expert in, and try and bring the elected official up to speed on what the best policy is. And really, when we talk about advocacy, we do not mean a one-time, like, hi, I'm in town, or hi, I'm at the state capitol, you should do this for me, and this is why. Really, advocacy needs to be looked at as establishing ongoing and trusting relationships. Your TESOL, you as an individual, want to become a really trusted resource to staff and elected officials when they have issues that they don't understand or need some more guidance on related to teaching English language learners, whether that's here in this country or internationally. You want to be that go-to organization where, as I said, staff and elected officials know they can get good information, trusted information, objective information, and that can be helpful to that legislative office. And so really the goal at the end of the day is to introduce yourself, share your ideas, share your information, and then keep that relationship ongoing. Next slide. Thanks, John. So the purpose of your Hill visits, when you're coming to DC and looking at the federal landscape, as I said, you want to develop a relationship with your congressional offices. And by this, you know, it's very exciting and important to meet with your member of Congress or your senator, but really who you really want to establish the relationship with is the staff member. Members of Congress have staff, and they that have different portfolios of issues they follow, and that staff member is really doing all the hard work, the legislative analysis, the committee hearings, meeting with constituents. The staff have expertise on issues in their portfolio, and they really, you know, tell the member what's going on how to vote. And so a staff person has a great deal of power, and so it's a really good idea to develop a relationship with staff as well as the elected member of Congress. And when you come to visit, you're going to be informing them, okay, about your work, the successes, the impact of what you're doing, and an honest summary of the challenges. It doesn't have to be all good news, but you definitely want to be honest about the challenges, and especially if there's some sort of federal law that's making your job and your impact, in your view, less effective. When you are meeting with the staff, I mean, it's also very good to be aware of our President's and Congress's overall goal right now in terms of education, and we've all heard this a lot, is, graduating students ready to be college and career ready. Also, we've probably been hearing a lot about preparing effective teachers. That issue is alive and really being debated right now by the education committees in the House and Senate. And so when you connect your work to one of these very important topics that, both chambers and members on both sides of the aisle are talking about, they might have different views, but we know these are important topics. It's really good to think about how you're going to connect your work to these overall larger issues facing Congress. Congress likes to connect with experts in the field. There is an acknowledgement that that here in D.C. we're sort of in this little bubble, and they know, elected officials and their staff know that they can learn so much and need to listen to the experts in the field who are actually doing the work. And so then that's connected back to what I was saying at the beginning of this slide about the importance of developing a relationship with the congressional offices to become that go-to resource. And in this way, you are the expert. Your job is to convey some of the real anecdotal information that's happening in your classroom, whether that's in K through 12 or in an intensive English program or in higher education. They want to hear real stories, and while they might be experts in the legislative process, you are the expert in the field of teaching English language learners and preparing teachers to teach English language learners. Next slide. So let's go down to the sort of logistics of the day. As John said at the beginning of the webinar, you are responsible for scheduling your visits. And since you're a constituent, it's much more effective for you to reach out. And so, as you know, the Hill visits are going to be on Tuesday, June 24th, sometime in between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. The best way to reach out to your member of Congress and your two senators is to email a letter requesting a meeting with the member of Congress. And faxes are now becoming problematic because I think faxes are going into the office and then just get, the fax pages come in and then seem to disappear into thin air, and really the vast majority of business is happening via email and online. So you can email a letter, and it's even better if you don't even you don't even have to click an attachment. You should just embed it, your letter of request, just asking to meet with your member of Congress. You say who you are, what you do, what you're a constituent, and that you're coming to town, and that you would like very much to meet with a member of Congress to share some information related to your students and the successes and challenges that you're having, and that certainly if a member of Congress isn't available, you would like to meet with the Education Legislative Assistant on Tuesday the 24th, anytime between 9 and 4. And so you should hear back from the scheduler. If you don't, that's when you can start picking up the phone, calling the congressional office, asking to speak to the scheduler to try and nail down that meeting time on the 24th. Schedulers are inundated with schedule requests, so if you don't hear back, it's a little frustrating, but they're juggling a lot of things. So please don't take it personally, but you just might have to pick up the phone to try and nail down that specific meeting time. Also, you might schedule a time, and then in 10 days you might get an email back saying, oh, sorry, I said 11, but really now I want you to come in at 2. That also is common because committee hearings and votes are scheduled more at the last minute, and so if it's just common if a congressional office might have to switch your meeting time at the last minute. Once again, please don't take it personally. It's just when you all are here, it's going to be a very, very busy time. Lots of hearings going on, lots of voting, which will make it exciting and great, but just have to always maintain that flexible attitude, as I like to say.
And just one more quick thing, if I could add, Ellen, we are going to be sending you some detailed tip sheets and directions. So, and we'll make these slides available as well. But so we will send those out this week to everybody, and so they'll give you real walkthrough steps on what you can do to help make that initial contact, who you should contact, how to do it. But one tip that's been shared with me with various participants is that a good place to start often is the website of your representative and senator, because they might actually have like a specific form on their website to complete and submit to request a meeting. Or more importantly, they may have specific information about other things you can do to meet with the representative or senator. For example, some elected officials might have like a weekly coffee with constituents at a particular time. And so knowing when that is, that could be helpful to navigate and plan your schedule, to be like, oh, I can actually stop in for coffee at this point in the morning and meet with the senator then, and then schedule other meetings with other offices throughout the day. So all this will be included in the tip sheets we'll be sending to you. Okay, here we go.
Right, yeah. And so, as John just said, here are the resources that we will be supplying to you to get ready, to help you do your homework and your preparation. We're going to provide for you some suggested talking points. We don't mean to script you, but we'd love for you, for instance, to talk about TESOL, what is TESOL, and then we're going to give you some suggested points related to legislation that we know Congress is looking at now and debating and trying to finalize. We will put, in a few slides, we're going to talk about how to have a successful Hill meeting. So we will put that also in a tip sheet for you, and also what to expect, like what to wear, and what to expect. Hey, you might have to have a meeting in the hallway because the congressional offices are so small and busy. Don't be surprised if that happens. So those resources will all be coming your way, in addition to some issue briefs, so you can read up on some of the legislative issues being debated. Also, for your meetings, you will be provided, once you get here to D.C., what we call a leave behind folder, because for every meeting you have with staff or a member of Congress, you want to leave something behind, something about, it will include information about TESOL. Please feel free to bring information about your program, your students, your school, or something you would like to share with the staff or member of Congress, and it can all be put in the Leave Behind folder, which staff are very used to receiving, and filing it away so they know where they can refer back to it when these issues arrive and when they want to reach back out and get in touch with you. And so these are these are some of the resources that you'll be getting ahead of time, and then when you arrive in DC to help you have successful meetings on the Hill. So let's go very quickly to what to expect on the visit. As we said, you're going to be requesting a meeting with your senator or your congressperson, but it might, they're very busy and they're running around to a variety of meetings and votes. So it might be that if you're meeting with the staffer, but the senator or congressperson will pop their head in and to say hello, to welcome you to DC, but it might not be that the elected official can stay the whole time in the meeting. So that's just wanted to sort of give you a realistic expectation of that. But once again, as I said, I think the staff can be even more important sometimes because they are the person you really want to influence and educate on your issue. Also, the staff are oftentimes very young, a few years out of school. There's not many staff you're going to meet that actually have taught in the classroom. All of them probably will have been to college or university, but they're not probably going to know a lot about the challenges of teaching English to non-English speaking, where English is not their first language. So, it's a great opportunity, though, to educate them. And then your meeting, as I said, might take place in the hallway because representatives have very small offices and they all sort of sit in one room in cubicles. And you might have to, you probably will be sitting either at a small table or couch area in the reception area or a hallway. The Senate offices are much bigger because there's only, the senators represent the whole state. So there you might get the opportunity to meet in a nice little conference room. But the House side is just more crowded and smaller. And once again, everyone does meetings in the hallway. And you'll see, if you're in the hallway, you'll see other meetings going on in the hallway. Basically, the overview of your visit is going to include, introductions, where you're from, what school you're teaching at, or what university, or what intensive English program, where that is, if it's associated with a college or university or not. And basically, you're going to be talking about your job, about why you're a member of the Professional Association, TESOL, what your impact is, what your challenge is, but also some real anecdotes. Members of Congress and staff are very focused on data and impact and evaluation, but at the same time, they just really want to hear about real people and what's going on. And it's easier to remember stories about something that's actually happening in the classroom oftentimes than statistics and data. So it's a combination of both that you're going to want to share. Real life anecdotes, real life experiences, but in addition to some, if you have it, some evaluation data or that demonstrates your impact. Also, for these meetings, staff expect to be asked for something. They're, and if you don't get to it quickly enough, they will say, so what can we do for you? Why are you here? What do you want us to look out for, or how do you want us to advocate your views once you're gone? We will provide you with these recommended talking points, as I said, that will be associated with certain pieces of legislation, and we will have these specific asks that will be concrete that you can talk about with the staff person. We also think it's a fantastic idea to invite staff and the member to visit your school to meet your students, or to come into the classroom at your college or university. It's once again a great way for them to see really what is happening on the ground in a real way, and then and your last thing will be to thank them very much for their time and leave your leave behind folder with you. So that's sort of a general, both sort of the details of a visit, meaning you might be in a hallway, to what we want you to start thinking about the format of your visit. You can also expect each visit to be between 15 and 30 minutes. Staff don't have a lot of time to share. As I've said previously, it's going to be a very busy time, so think about 15 to 30 minutes of, and you can already start thinking about what you would like to share with them about your program.
And just to quickly add before we move on to the next slide, about inviting representatives and their staff to come visit your school or your program, absolutely do that. Every year, at least one or two people who have gone to the summit have talked about having follow-up communication with their elected officials and have actually asking to come out and see their program. It happens quite regularly. Congress is out for recess in August, so that's a good time. It's also, it is an election year, so elected officials like to be out and about and seen. So we definitely recommend you to include that as part of your visit, inviting people to come visit your program.
All right, and I think
John,
you're
yes.
take from here. Okay.
So I'll lead off on this slide. So just some practical tips and practical information for getting to specifically Capitol Hill on TESOL Advocacy Day. We will be at a hotel in Arlington, Virginia, which is literally right across the river from Capitol Hill, and the Washington, D.C. Metro. It's a pretty easy Metro ride to Capitol Hill. So we will be giving everyone directions and Metro maps and a $10 Metro card to help for your transportation to Capitol Hill that day. Also, starting now over the next couple of weeks, we'll have people coming from a variety of states. Some states have as many as 10 people coming to participate. And so to help to coordinate your meetings and help connect you with your colleagues, what we will be doing is following up with you in email and connecting people from your state with you. So that way you can coordinate your schedules as you plan meetings, and we encourage you to go as a team to all your meetings, especially to the Senate, since you will all be constituents of your same senators. But that way, as you plan your meetings, you can plan your schedules accordingly and won't have to duplicate your efforts or create conflicts for yourself. So we will be connecting you via email over the next few weeks to help facilitate that process. Once you get to Capitol Hill, there are a variety of buildings on either side of the Capitol building, and we will be giving you maps. In fact, you can download them from the group and the TESOL community right now to give you a sense of what the layout is. But each of the buildings does have pretty tight security. It's much like going to the airport, so you'll need to definitely plan enough time in getting to the Hill and getting to your meetings to go through security. If there's not a line, it will go through pretty quickly. However, sometimes there is a line, so it might take a little bit longer. The day before on Monday, we'll kind of give you a little bit of orientation. Several of the buildings have multiple entrances, and some entrances are a little bit easier to navigate than others. So we will help you with that. Also, the House and the Senate have their office buildings on opposite sides of the Capitol building, and so if you're going from the House to the Senate, you want to leave about at least 15 minutes to cross between the two. So think about that as you're planning your schedule, that if you're going to be meeting with, for example, 2 representatives and 1 senator, you may want to coordinate your meetings so you do your representatives like in the morning, and then you leave your meeting with the senator in the afternoon, so you only have to cross the Capitol complex once. And each of them, as you plan your meetings and contact your offices for scheduling, you'll get a sense of which buildings, which house, which Capitol Hill offices. So you may want to plan to think ahead to minimize your own sort of walking pattern or traffic flow, so you're not having to go back and forth between the same buildings multiple times. And as Ellen said, your meetings will last on average probably about 20 minutes, anywhere between 15 and 30. But they might go longer. You just never quite know, depending upon the schedules that day, the individual agendas that each of the members of Congress have throughout the day, and their availability, as well as their staff's availability. So Ellen, do you want to cover this slide?
Sure. Some more practical tips. If you're wondering what to wear, business dress is the best way to go. You really want to wear comfortable shoes. You're going to be walking a lot, and there are marble floors everywhere, and it really the day will become much longer if you're wearing if you're not wearing comfortable shoes. So remember to bring those. It's also really important to be on time to your meetings. However, if something comes up or you're delayed or a meeting went long, so you're running a little late to the next meeting, please pick up the phone and call the office just to give the staff a heads up. It's just really respectful, so they know you're running late. They can maybe do something while they're waiting for you, but it's going to be so appreciated if you give them a heads up if you're not going to be on time. It's also important to stay on message and not sort of go wandering around from topic to topic, because you're going to have a short amount of time and you want it to be time well spent. And I really think thinking about what anecdotes or what you want to share with the staff or elected official in terms of some things that you're seeing in your classrooms or folks, if you're working with adults, maybe you're working with immigrants, those stories, and you're really only going to have time for one real story. It's a good use of your time to think about the most effective stories to share that best illustrates the point that you want to get across in terms of who you're working with and what you're doing in particular. So you want to stay on message. You don't want to be trying to cover too many topics in a 20-minute period, and be ready with a story that you feel comfortable sharing, and that is really going to convey the points you want to make. John, do you want to do this? Or?
Yeah. Well, I'll do this one. So some tips for a successful meeting. And again, we will be doing some role-playing on site during the summit, so we'll repeat this information. But you really want to treat this as a polite business meeting. So we encourage to remember everyone's your manners and say thank you at the meeting. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. Do your homework, as I said. This helps just from connecting with the legislator and his or her team, doing a little bit of background research on your legislators, what their background is. It's always great when you can find points of information that you might share in common, just sort of a good networking tip. For example, the representative who serves my district here in Northern Virginia, he went to the same college that I did. So I make certain to bring that point up whenever I get a chance to meet with his office or meet with him in person. As Ellen mentioned, you want to respect the time, so be on time, be prepared, and be flexible in case anything comes up. You had planned to meet in the office, but suddenly you're going to stand out in the hallway to have your meeting. Just to realize this all happens quite regularly in terms of the sudden changes to the schedule. So being flexible with how the meeting unfolds. As Ellen said, staying on message, be clear and concise. We'll give you some time to practice that in advance of your meetings, so you can know ahead of time how you're going to make your points and what you're going to say. And bringing background information from your district to help support your issue, making it a clear and definite request for action, connecting, what your experiences are, some real-world examples to help illustrate the point you're making about the particular issue. And as we've indicated before, we're going to be sending you information over the next few weeks to give you an outline about what those talking points will be, and that's the kind of information you can look for within your program, within your district, or among your peers to help bring that additional resources to back up the talking points. Making it local, making it a local story, facts and figures of what's happening back at your district. And as we've said before, the real goal is to help build a relationship with staff and to become a resource. And I've seen this unfold successfully many, many times with participants of the Advocacy Summit. And something just happened this weekend. I just got an email, and I promise you this is totally sincere. 2 participants who went last year, they had kept in touch with their elected official from California, who's a relatively new member of Congress, and he's followed up with them an email, and they just shared with me a message they had received from him over the weekend because he had heard about the summit coming up and was hoping that he'd be able to see them. But they've established that relationship with their member of Congress and have kept it up, and they're hoping to invite him to their own affiliate conference later this year. So it's great to see that they've been able to build on that first meeting and really keep up the relationship with the elected official and his office. Do leave behind information, and we will be supplying you with folders of information from TESOL International Association, so you will be able to do that. And of course, very important, do follow up with a thank you letter by email immediately after the meeting, thanking for their time, and then it's also a good time to follow up with any information you might have discussed during the meeting. Frequently you might be meeting about a particular issue, and they might ask for something. You might not have the information available immediately then, but you know how to get it and can send it to them. So be sure to follow up and do that and provide that additional information. And that helps establish your credibility as an expert and a resource on that particular issue. So Ellen, do you want to take the don'ts?
Sure, and most of these we have gone over. Once again, please don't be late. Another one is we recommend that you don't show a great deal of disappointment, like, oh my gosh, if your meeting turns out at the last minute to be with a staff person instead of a member of Congress. We all know they're very, very busy, and that, as I keep repeating myself, the staff person is really, really important for you to connect with. Don't remember that they're not going to know as much or about the topic of teaching English to speakers of other languages than you do. So don't assume anything, and you are the expert, and so it's your time to really educate the staff on the key points. Don't get off message. Don't forget to leave your leave behind packet, and please don't forget to just dash off a quick thank you note after your visit, after you get back home, and that's a way to either follow up with perhaps a question, the answer to a question that they might have asked you, and it's a great way to establish that email relationship and just thanking them for their time. Also, one of the things actually that should be on here in terms of a don't is if staff or a member of Congress asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, please, please, please do not make it up. Don't feel like you're being put on the spot. It's much better and absolutely appropriate to say, I'm not really sure, but when I get home, I will look into that and get back to you as soon as possible. And it's another great reason to follow back up with them once you're home. But there is no need to feel like you need to know every answer to every question that you might be asked. It's much better to say, I'm sorry, I want to get you the most accurate information as possible, and I will get that to you as soon as I can.
That is actually a really great tip. So we'll update the slides to include that.
Yeah.
But another tip that was not included in the slides, but to pass along, is bring business cards. If you have business cards, bring them so you will leave your contact information with the staffers or with the elected official. If you don't have readily available business cards, you certainly can either just print up your contact information on slips of paper, or there are a variety of resources online where you could get some business cards printed up pretty cheaply. But it's an easy way to pass along your contact information so that they have it. And certainly collect business cards from everyone you meet. So that way you have their contact information, and especially if you will be meeting with staffers, which is very likely, their contact information won't necessarily be available on the web pages of their bosses, on the congressional office web pages. So that way you can have the direct contact information of those who you met with and not have to worry about trying to navigate something online, or calling general phone numbers to try to find their contact information. So we are just at a few minutes before 4. This brings us to the end of the information we've prepared. We've given you a lot of information at once, and there's a lot of things we've covered here, but we do have some time for questions. So if you want to either post a question in the chat box, or if you are on the phone on the live line, if you want to unmute that, we can take some questions now. But just to reiterate, we'll be placing a copy of this recording as well as all the slides online in that community group for the summit, and we will also be following up with additional tip sheets, as we referenced here, to give you more detailed directions and steps to help you prepare for your meetings and what to expect and that sort of thing. But we will open it up for any questions you may have now. You can feel free to jump in, or I know there's at least one person who's participated in this Advocacy Day or in the summit in the past. So if she would like to share any tips she may have from having gone through this before, that'd be great too.
Or if anything was unclear, or if you want to know good sightseeing spots. No?
Yeah, no, I guess we've covered everything.
This is Diane. I can ask a question. I'm assuming in terms of anecdotal materials, like a lot of times I use my iPad to record snippets of activities and things from my classroom. And they can be very powerful because seeing language learners collaborating in many, many different languages and getting the job done is great to see. So if there is like a 1-minute clip, let's say, that I'm carrying around on my iPad, is that appropriate, or should I stick only to paper?
I think that's perfectly appropriate. You said it well, though. 1 minute. You don't want to, have just sitting there looking at a video for 10 minutes, which I know you would not do. But I think that's great to show a 1-minute clip of something you'd like to, further once you've told them about a certain element or characteristic or something that happened in the classroom, and then to show them to further reinforce what you just said. I think that's perfectly appropriate to show them a 1-minute clip.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a great suggestion. But as Ellen said, I think it'd be ideal to connect it to the points that specific points you're making, and if you have the video to illustrate that's fantastic. Good question.
Great. Well, I appreciate all the information you provided, and I'll look forward to getting the packet.
Absolutely. We've got a couple more minutes if there's any other questions people have. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything in the chat box, and I'm not hearing anything, so I guess no one had. Yeah, if no one has any other questions, we can wrap up.
No, and John, feel free in your follow-up or anything if anyone wants to know my email, and obviously, John, feel free to share that with any of the folks on the call.
Oh, thank you, Ellen. That'd be great. Okay, so I guess at this point we'll wrap up the orientation. As I mentioned before, we will place a copy of these slides online in the TESOL community, as well as a copy of this recording, and we will be sending you more information shortly, including the directions and tip sheets to making your meetings with members of Congress, and issue briefs, and all that will be forthcoming over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Probably the next 2 weeks. We'll get those out in advance of the summit. And if you have any questions you think of after the fact, please feel free to contact me. You have my email address right there. You can, of course, post it to the full group if you'd like via the listserv, and we'd be happy to respond with any other information we can provide. And with that, we will officially wrap it up. So thank you, everybody, for your time today. We hope this information has been helpful, and we look forward to seeing you very soon here in Washington.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye.